Good morning, guys. Today is the 17th of June 2022. It's just coming up to 11 a.m. here in the UK, and I'll just do the normal checks and make sure that the audio and video are working. And it looks like everything is everything's working fine, so let's just crack on. All right, so first we start off here with the cryptocurrency heat map, and as you can see, this is the stock heat map, and you can see the great majority of it is in the red, and surprisingly, I will explain why in just a minute. And on the cryptocurrency heat map, we've got a little bit of a bounce here, a little relief bounce on Bitcoin and the great majority of crypto. And like you see here, like the great majority of it is in the green, right? But with very few exceptions, with Link and Kronos or whatever it is from Crypto.com. And there's a few exceptions, but the great majority of it is in the green. And it's really just a little relief bounce. Now, today is a very special day, so I will start first of all with a calendar, as usual. And the calendar says that today we've got Jay Powell speaking, which is the Federal Reserve Chairman. And he's speaking, and he's probably answering questions as well regarding the interest rate hikes and the plan to tame inflation, and of course to the plan that they've got to go forward with quantitative tightening and sort of getting rid of some of the balance sheet that of all the crap that they've been buying for the last 12 years or so. So basically, he's speaking at around about 1:45. So it's more or less around about the same time that the New York session opens, or just after the New York session opens. So that's in a few hours, a couple of hours, I think it is. So yeah, I'd pay attention to that. There's going to be some volatility coming with that. But on top of that, there is something else that is happening today. And I mentioned this on Wednesday, just briefly. And basically what it is today is what it's called quadruple witching, right? And what does this mean? This basically just means that a lot of contracts are expiring today. So there's stock options, there's stock index options, there's single stock futures and stock index futures, and they're all expiring today. I watched the video and I shared it in the group already. There is huge amounts of money. I mean, to the point that the guy who's actually presenting the video can't even tell what the number is. If you don't know what it is, please join the group on FODL or on Discord. Join the server. I've posted that in the group already to give everybody a heads up yesterday. But what this basically means is that there are billions, hundreds of billions of dollars expiring today in 4 different instruments, in 4 different contracts, right? So this is going to cause extreme volatility, of course, and an influx of volume as people sort of shuffle things around, and they either buy more contracts, sell more contracts, or whatever. So this is likely to cause extreme volatility, and if you're trading this today, especially with leverage, I would recommend that you either downsize your position or exit the trades completely, because like I said, the likelihood of high volatility and whipsaws in the market is very likely to put you on the wrong side of it. So just be careful with that. I just thought I'd give you a heads up, and I can dig a little bit deeper into that and just show you, before I move on to the S&P, what we can see from previous quad witch days. Okay, so this is taken from one of the websites. I'll show you in just a minute. But this is basically what's happened on quadruple witching days in 2021, and you can see the spikes in volume on those particular days. Okay, so this was obviously the bull market, and you can see that, you know, this is a bull market. As you can see that the trend is just going up, but every time that there is a quad witching day, you can see a little pullback. There's a little drawback, right? Draw down, draw down, draw down, draw down. Now the quad witching days, this is basically something that happens maybe about 4 times a year. Okay, so it happened 4 times in 2021, and it did tend to happen on the 3rd Fridays of March, June, September, and December. Okay, they always occur near the end of each quarter in the year. So this year was March 18th. It's today, June the 17th, and there's another one in September 16th and December 16th. Okay, so the impact of this, I don't want to read through all of this, right? But basically, this is from TradeStation, just to give credit to that chart that I just showed you, and also to the website. If you want to learn more about it, just go onto TradeStation or just type in quadruple witching dates in financial markets, and you'll get to learn a little bit more about it. But the long and the short of it is that basically there's going to be lots of volatility, an influx in volume as people shuffle things around, and as a result of that, there's going to be whipsaws in the market. Now, with Bitcoin being so closely correlated with the S&P, you can expect that volatility to transpire over to crypto. Okay, so with that in mind, let's move on to the charts. We start here with the S&P, right? So let's move on to the 3-day chart. The higher time frame chart, and you can see that we basically tried to get back above on this previous distribution here after the FOMC meeting on Wednesday, but of course it got rejected, and we're kind of back inside of this lower range here, right? So the reason I call this a range is, again, because I'm looking at this as a distribution, right? And we're on the lower end of the distribution. You can see that there's a shelf there. There's a bit of a sort of a discrepancy in volume there, right? And the reason I also see this as the two edges of the higher distribution there is really just because of the low volume nodes. And you can see that the next volume node is down here at around about 3,600 points. Okay, the next one is way down here at 3,200 points. All right, so you can see that there, right? And this is yet another distribution here. Okay, so obviously if we lose this level here around about 3,600 points, then I think it's very likely, you know, like look at this tapering volume, it's very likely that the price will accelerate towards these lows, okay, or at least the point of control, which is around about 3,360 points, okay, which was bring us round about to the highs pre-COVID dump of 2021, of 2020. Right, so with the VWAPs, you can see that we've got a double, two standard deviations here, right? I've got, so this is the, let me just take the magnet off. This is the 2021 VWAP close. This is the +1 and the -1 standard deviations, right? So the first standard deviations of that VWAP, and this here is the +2 and the -2 here, right? Okay, so this is value area low, value area high. This is value area high +1, so second standard deviation, value area low +1, right? And you can see that basically it created a little rectangle there. Basically, it just marks out the close, and it has perfect confluence with that low volume node at $3,600. So, sorry, 3,600 points. So I do think that this area here will cause a little bit of support there, especially as if we consider as well that the value area high of the 2020 VWAP also has confluence with that level there. Okay, so like I said, I do expect this is like in between two distributions. I do expect 3,600 to hold as support for, you know, for at least 1 or 2 taps, right? But again, going back to the quad witching days, I just wanted to show you something here on the quad dates, right? And you can see that basically that chart that I was showing you before from that website, I took it upon myself to kind of go and check out the dates for 2021, and I just highlighted him here. Okay, so this is on the 3-day chart, so it's obviously not very visible what's happened there. Okay, but you can see that basically there's drawdown afterwards, right? So let me just show you this on the 4-hour chart. I don't know what that is, but I'll just delete that for a minute. I'm just going to take the volume profile off for a second. So, right, so 2021, you can see on the 18th of March, it happens there. The market's dumped. Okay, bear in mind that this is a bull market, right? We're going up, right? So here we are, we've got a correction. On this witching day, we have a correction straight after. Okay, on this one, we also have a correction and a little bit of volatility, but there's a correction nonetheless, right? Here we had a little bit of a push to the upside, right? But then we also had a correction, right? So this is the 4 dates in 2021, correction on those days, right? Although the market did rally here, and this was basically the turn of the tide, if you like. Okay, this is a bull market, be going up and up and up, higher highs, higher lows. You know, this is the shift of the trend is right here, right? So on the last quad witching day, what happened? So here we had significant drawdown since December, right? So we're going down on a downtrend. What happens with the quad witching day? We go up. It's like a market correction from the trend. The correction is basically the opposite of the trend, right? So we go up, there's a bounce there, even though the price went much lower afterwards, right? So here we hit key levels, of course, we went back up and then we came back down again, but we're still printing lows, right? New lows, right? So what could happen today with that volatility is that we could see a little bounce, right, on the S&P as people rearrange their inventory and basically enter and exit contracts or whatever. We'll see that volatility, and it's very likely that we see kind of like this kind of like whipsaw kind of thing like we saw basically here, right, which is when we had the FOMC meeting. So we can see this type of volatility happening, but we could see indeed a bear market rally, okay? And this is, you know, if you think about it, this was the ceiling here, right? This was the ceiling got dropped, this became the ceiling. Now we dropped, printed new lows. Where would be the next ceiling? Well, you could argue that the next ceiling could be this one here, right? So we could even rally all the way up to here and still be printing lower highs and then print new lows. But all I'm trying to say to you guys is that there's going to be volatility in the market, most likely, right? And even if it doesn't work out that it does exactly the same as last time, because I'm by no means an expert, right? Even if it doesn't do that, the volatility might push it out of certain key levels that we've got. And the main key level I'm looking at is this one here, the 3,600 points, okay? Like I said to you guys, if we get below this and we cannot get back above it, the next level that we want to look for is 3,200, which is way down here, right? So that's a big drop on the S&P. So we'll just have to wait and see, okay? This is quite a lot of drawdown. This is a significant drop here. There's about 20% there. And so it would only be natural to see a little bit of a sort of like ebb and flow type of thing, where we kind of mean revert a little bit, go back a little bit higher, and then continue to print new lows. But, you know, we're getting close to getting yet another impulse. But, you know, I could be wrong, of course. I just wanted to highlight all this because it is complex information. You're not going to hear this everywhere. And to be honest, I'm not really an expert in it. I'm trying to make sense out of it. But all I know is that I'm going to reduce my position size, reduce my risk, and I'm probably just going to watch and see what happens and just see how it all plays out. Okay, so that's basically what we could be seeing here on the S&P. So I just wanted to highlight that, again, you know, just to make it very, very clear, right? And I'm going to put this on the daily. This is basically the volatility that we saw at the FOMC meeting, right? So basically the market rallied. It tried to get acceptance back inside of this little cluster there, right? It couldn't get acceptance above that level, above that shelf there, and it kind of fell straight back down again. As it falls straight back down, it kind of bounced here, but it hasn't really tested that 3,600 point level yet, okay? So I think for now we're kind of stuck in this range until proven otherwise. I think this could be a ceiling here, right? We might not be able to go above it. I mean, we've already confirmed this as resistance, okay? But there is a possibility that that volatility pushes us out, and then we're kind of like stuck in this range now, okay? So anything can happen, right? We can either get below this level and then confirm that this is now resistance instead of support, or we could indeed go on to the next level. But you can see that basically, and I will highlight this again just so that you guys know what we're doing. And let me put this on a 3-day chart so that I can do that for you a little bit better. In fact, I highlighted it twice there. I don't want to make this about the S&P because I'm not a fucking expert in traditional finance, but I just wanted to highlight basically these levels as I think that they are important. So not that one. Let me just get a trend line here. Right, something like that, which is basically a potential new range, okay? So, and you can see here that it actually has confluence with the 2020 VWAP here, okay? So we're at the lows of that. So this is the VWAP close here of 2020, and the lows of that sort of high volume cluster there, of that balance area, if you like. It kind of like falls in line with this. So just bear in mind that we could see like significant lows being put in, and we could go as low as this. All right, so volatile times, especially with Powell announcing 75 basis points. Okay, so the markets reacted negatively to that, even though it was kind of half priced in anyway. But we've got some, you know, in terms of sort of like global finance, I think we've got some scary stories coming out at the moment. Everybody's kind of predicting a recession, etc. But, you know, I think it was Rothschild that said, you know, buy when there's blood in the streets, right? So this could be potentially a really good area to buy. But in terms of leverage trading, I'm staying out and seeing what happens here, because the volatility, if you've got good risk appetite and you prefer trading volatile times, then this is a great time for you. I prefer to protect capital in uncertain times, and that's basically where we are right now. Okay, so that's all I've got for the S&P at the moment. Like I said, we're stuck in between this range between 3,800 points and 3,600 points, but with the volatility coming today, we could just bounce between those two levels and either break to either side. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out, but you've been warned now, okay, of what could be happening. Moving on to the Nasdaq, I mean, very much the same situation. If we look at what's happened, I mean, this was the tiniest bit of volatility here. We couldn't break back above inside of this range here, which you could argue that it's actually a larger distribution like this. But you can see very clearly here that there's two little distributions in there, right? So if I was to put the rest of the chart on like this, you see what I mean when you can argue that this whole thing is just one large distribution, right? So, but you know, nevertheless, it does look like we've been rejected here, right? And as such, if we've been rejected there, just make this a little bit bigger. So you can see here, we've been rejected right here. And as we've been rejected there, then the natural thing to think is that we're going to go much lower, and we're going to go and test this level here, around about 10,400 points, okay? So just bear that in mind. And of course, if we reclaim this level, then there's a potential to start taking the levels above as well and get stuck within this range here, right? So we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. But there is potential, potentially quite a big move to the downside here, as we've got plenty of, there's a big gap here between 11,274 points where we are right now and 10,400 points. So just keep that in mind, all right? So with all that crap out of the way, and you know, the reason why I'm obviously highlighting all this stuff is because Bitcoin is so closely correlated with the S&P. If you didn't know that, now you know. Okay, so looking here at the 3-day chart, I'm going to put this on the weekly just to make it a little bit easier. The little blue line that you see there, let me just take the view apps off. That little blue line is obviously the all-time highs of 2017. I've highlighted it there. You can see how close the price is to that right now, okay? And you can also see here on the right hand side the discrepancy in volume. It's a low volume node, or basically the edge of a higher volume cluster, even though you can argue that this is not a high volume cluster in context with this one, right? Not by any means. This is very low volume, and the price could very quickly travel through that because that's really insignificant. As you can see, price here moved very, very quickly through that. This is very, very thin as well. So very thin air, very thin legs there. There's nothing really significant in terms of consolidation there that would sort of indicate that we could perhaps see a little bit of a consolidation there. The only thing that you see is this little bit of consolidation there that you can only see it really on the 12-hour and the daily chart, really. So let's move on to that, and let's move on to the daily chart, and you can see that consolidation is basically this level here that I'm talking about, right? And you can see that there's a little bit of a volume cluster there as a result, right? That blue line that I'm highlighting is right on the edge of that high volume cluster. It's the 2017 all-time highs, and as you can see, it's very, very close to where we are right now, right? So also, and additionally, if I was to put this, let's put this on the 3-day chart so we've got a better view, okay? If I was to put some weekly levels, these are the weekly closes, right? Closer to price. You can see that we've got a weekly close round about here from December 2020. Again, really, really close to where we are right now. That's around about $19,160 here on Coinbase. Okay, so again, that's a weekly close there. You can see that that's the weekly close lower there. This could perhaps actually be, perhaps move it to there. Put the magnet on a second. And you can argue that it's actually like 19,375, but you can see 19,500, let's say, right? So somewhere between 19,000 and 19,500, there's a weekly level there. So hopefully that will cause a little, you know, give a little bit of support. It's also a previous all-time highs. So a lot of people are looking at that level for a potential bounce. Okay, so it is possible, but again, I'm just going to highlight the fact that there's not really much in the way there of consolidation below. Okay, so as you can see here, very low volume just below that. So again, we know that that usually causes the price to get rejected there, so it could be support. However, if the price does travel through there, it's going to travel very quickly, okay, because it's again a thin area of volume. You can see how quickly the price traveled here, right, and the same here. Just take the fucking magnet off, right? Thin, thin. That's why there's, you know, hardly any volume there. And what that means is that when, you know, it's support until proven otherwise, but once that support breaks, the price travels very, very quickly through that, okay? And again, we don't have much volume there all the way down to around about $12,000, okay, which is basically where we start seeing this consolidation here. All right, so, you know, this could potentially, that's why people are calling 12,000. That's because they're looking at this volume cluster, and quite rightly so, right? But you know, when everybody's eyeing up a level, Bitcoin has a habit of leaving everybody behind, and it gets front run. It doesn't go to that level. So just keep that in mind as well, okay? We could potentially see a nice big nasty wick to the downside. I would say a nice, because I'm on the other side of the trade and I want to buy. But yeah, we could see a nasty wick to the downside like that, and then the price reclaim that straight away. So let's have a look at the closer on the shorter time frames and just see how that would pan out, right? So moving on to, I'm going to go on to the 4-hour chart, and I've got the monthly VWAP with a standard deviation here. Okay, so this is the monthly VWAP, right, which is this red line here, and you can see that the price has already been rejected here on the value area low of the monthly, okay, which is now standing at around about $22,000. All right, you can see that we're also forming a little range here, right, which is interesting. So what happens in terms of price dynamics usually is that when we form a range, what tends to happen is that we print a bottom, and then that generates a lot of liquidity, meaning that everybody that's long is going to have their stops in a very obvious place, which is just below. Well, just below that, we've got that weekly level at 19,300 or whatever, and 19,900 for the previous all-time highs. So potentially we could see a move on Bitcoin doing something like this, wick to the downside, grab that liquidity, and then move up. The key thing that we want to see in Bitcoin for it to be able to move up, that it's not a bearish move, is that if we reclaim the range, confirm it as support, and then we've got room to move up, okay? However, if it gets back to the lows of the range, as always, right? So this is the lows here. Gets back here and it gets rejected, then that means we're going to go much lower. All right, so this here, this area here, after a spike down, is really key in figuring out what's going to happen. I'll show you this on the market profile in a minute, but I think these levels, these lows are going to get taken, regardless, right? Regardless if we're going to go down or if we indeed move up. So just bear that in mind, okay? So we are forming a range here on the 4 hours, but it's a lot better visible here on the 30-minute. And you can see here that basically we've got some highs there, we've got some lows here, right? I could do it something like this. Just put this range in a queue like that, right? And you can see that basically we've got some, we've got the highs getting tapped there. Come back to the lows, we bounced there. We got some lows here as well. The midpoint is valid, right? So we're being sort of rejected at the midpoint there. So let me just take the VWAP a second off so it becomes a little bit clearer. You can see that the midpoint is being respected, the equilibrium, if you like, which is basically the 0.5 of this fib. And so naturally what I think that could happen, and I'll repeat this again, is that we take out these lows, and I'll explain this why in just a second. But basically everybody that's long's got the stops there, right? So we trigger all those stops, which basically we're engineering liquidity here. We grab that liquidity, and then the price has to bounce back inside of the range for it to be bullish. Okay, if it doesn't go back inside of the range and it gets kind of rejected here and starts kind of rolling over, then you know it's going to go much lower here. So this could be an entry for a long, or it could be an entry for a short. Am I going to trade the first, catch the falling knife and trade this first move? No, I'd much rather trade the retest, right? Because that retest, the price will almost always retrace, right? So the question is, will we get back inside of the range, which is bullish, or will we get rejected there? And that's basically the same thing above, right? So if we go above here, right, we start hovering at resistance like this, when the price spikes up, will it come back and test this and confirm that this is indeed support? If it does, that's bullish, and obviously the price is going to go up. However, if it falls back inside of the range again, guess what? It's going to test that edge here, and that's the entry for a short. Okay, because we basically got accepted back inside of this range. You can see that there's a low volume cluster there as well, right? So I hope that's clear in terms of price dynamics. But again, with the volatility that is coming today, then you know the price could do like something like this, nice big wick like this, go all the way back here, nice big wick up to the side, and then get back in the fucking range again. So you just have to trade this carefully if you are trading it, or perhaps just stay out and see how it all pans out. Right. Important thing to mention as well that Monday is a bank holiday in the United States. I forgot to mention that. So it's going to be a long weekend for the United States. So if we are to see a rally, then perhaps that could extend all the way through the weekend and bleed into Monday as well. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right. So targets to the downside, really, we'd have to go on to the bigger chart. Like I've already said, I'm looking really, if we break this level here at 19,000. We're looking perhaps at these kind of like little clusters here, so around about 16,000. But ultimately, what I'm looking at is this level here, 12,000, just because this gets such a big sort of volume distribution there, right? So that's the most significant volume there, around about $12,000. And basically, if we break down to the downside from 19,000, then that's where I would expect the price to go eventually. Okay. I don't know if it's going to be a slow bleed or if it's going to be very quickly. I expect it will be quick because of the low volume, but that's basically where we're at. Okay, so yeah, just keep that in mind. So that's for the downside. Of course, for the upside, if we do indeed move up, right? Let me just go back onto the 4-hour chart here. If we could even, yeah, no, I think I'm going to stay on the daily chart here. If we move to the upside, you can see that we've got a high volume cluster right above us, somewhere between $21,000 and $25,000. So even if we see a little bounce here, $25,000 could be the next level of resistance. In fact, it's almost certainly the next level of resistance. If for some weird reason we see a proper rally, right, like a crazy rally, then I would look at $28,000 as the next level of resistance. And again, because this is a previous level of support here, that's largely untested, so that's a high probability trade. You can see that there is the edge of a high volume cluster there as well, which would mean that we would most likely find a little bit of resistance there first. Okay, of course, going all the way up here and then reclaiming this level would be extremely bullish, but we're not looking at that just yet. For me, this is resistance until proven otherwise, because like I said, this was support. We created a nice little range there, and it's largely untested. We've not tested that as resistance yet. Okay, so that's a high probability trade in my view for a short. Okay, again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but that's basically what I would do if I was looking at the looking to trade that. All right, so I know that the weekly level here is at 31,800, but I think that's a little bit too ambitious, right? So you can see that this is a very large area, a large big range here where we've been kind of like going sideways for ages. So you know, we might not see the volatility might just do something like this, and we might stay within this parameter and do the same type of range that we've had here. That's possible as well. But if we break out, at least now you know the levels that will be looking for resistance and the levels of support, then this level here. And if we, obviously, if we don't hold that, then it's not very far to $12,000. Okay, so we're kind of in the middle here. My inclination is to think that perhaps we're going to go up in the short term and then go back down again, considering everything that's going on in the world. But I could be completely wrong. We could go down first and then just go up, right? So either way, you're just going to have to observe what happens. Yeah, that's basically what I've got here on Bitcoin. So this is 19,000, 19,500 is a level that I'm looking at. With that in mind, I'll move on to Exocharts and try and make some sense out of it by showing you some confluent levels with the volume profile. So we start here with the weekly profile. This is the weekly volume profile, and you can see basically we've taken out this naked party control. We've still got a naked party control way down here at around about 18,000 $300. Okay, but you can see that basically on the, this is a volume profile that is drawn from the whole range here, and you can see where the price is now is where this gray line is, and we've got a low volume area right here, right, which is around about $19,600. Okay, if you don't believe me, let me just put it there like this, right, 19,500, somewhere between 20,000 19,500. Okay, so again, low volume area. All right, it could potentially cause a bounce. It's the edge of this high volume cluster, or the bigger high volume cluster here. Bear with me just a second. All right, so this volume cluster here, which is basically where we had that consolidation there. So this could potentially give us a bounce. However, if we do lose that, we've got a couple of naked points of control, and one of them is at 18,200 and another one at around about $16,000. Okay, and then we've got that big distribution way down here, which basically takes us down to $12,000, and then we'll have to evaluate if we do indeed get there. So that's levels to the downside on the volume profile. On the daily volume profile, let's have a quick look here. We're consolidating, we're basically taking out this naked point of control here around about 20,600, and we're consolidating here, and you can see that basically we've got naked points of control starting at around about $18,400. There's not much in the way of naked points of control in terms of volume below us now, okay, but we did leave some behind. So we've got one at 23,680, and we've got another one at 27,400. Okay, this is a balance area up here, which is basically that $28,500 level, which is basically the range, if you like, of where we'd been ranging, with a few deviations to the upside and the downside, but this is basically where we are. This is a balance area, if you like. All right, so we've got two naked points of control on the way up to there. So any volatility, and obviously with this being a very thin leg here, with lacking volume, then we could see the price travel very, very quickly to those levels yet again. Okay, will that mean that we'll go now to all-time highs again and this is bullish? No, it could be just a bearish retest, right? It could just be retesting the previous area of support, right? Confirm that as resistance. So just keep that in mind, right? If you see this rally, don't just go all balls deep in or whatever. This is anything, if anything, it's a good opportunity for a short rather than the bull run. Okay. So moving on to the market profile for the day, this is basically what I wanted to show you guys, and I just wanted to show you a series of anomalies that we've got here to the downside, right? So what we've got down here is a poor low. There's no excess on that. Okay, so it shows lack of conviction. It's called a weak low. So it's lack of conviction from buyers. We see yet another weak low yesterday, and of course today. Although we did bounce, we came down and we tested the previous day value area low, right? But you know, these are all anomalies. This is basically all these poor lows have not been corrected on the way down, as we've been ranging. Okay, so again, what I'm thinking is that we could perhaps see the type of scenario where we just, it always happens. If you look back at it, this always happens, right? So we put a little low here. Put a little low like that, right? And so everybody starts putting their stops down here like this, right? And then suddenly we take out those stops, and then we fall back inside of the range, grabbed all that liquidity there. Basically, if a whale wants to fill his bags, he's got big bags to fill, right? And he wants to fill it without pumping the price. What does he have to do? He has to find opposing order flow. He has to find the sellers in order for him to fill his bag without moving the price too much. So what do they do is they'll push the price down a little bit. This is not the market maker. The market maker just simply removes their liquidity from the books when there's big orders coming in, when there's the toxic order flow or whatever you want to call it, right? So when there's big orders coming in, they don't want to be caught offside, so they'll remove liquidity from the book. Without liquidity in the book, price becomes more volatile. So these guys will push the price down, grab all of these stops, right, which is basically sell orders. Everybody that's long puts their stops below there. If you're long, your stops are basically market sell orders, and he fills his bag on all these market sell orders without moving the price too much, below the current price as well, which is optimal, right? And then he'll just stop selling. So basically, just, the cascading liquidations come down, he fills his bag, and then boom, resume price, and up we go, right? So that's basically the mechanics of that. So I don't think that we're going to get away without, if we are going up, I don't think we're going to get away without sweeping these lows here before, okay? So that's basically what I'm seeing. Again, in terms of the upside, you can see there's plenty of excess on these ones, but we've got naked party control at 23,600, like I said. We've got a few VWAP closes that are not being taken, which is basically another one here at 24,000. We've got another one here at 27,500 with also a naked point of control there. And then we're entering the realm of you know, poor highs here. There's single prints. There are VWAP closes and a big cluster basically of very key levels, okay, including balance areas and stuff, around about $28,000, $29,000, all right, which is basically where the previous range was. But yeah, this is thin in liquidity, so we could, in volume, so basically we could see the price rally very, very quickly and have an explosive move to the upside before turning back down again. So just, you know, just keep that in mind. But I don't think we're going to go back up until we've taken out these previous lows, all right? So that's what I'm seeing here on the market profile. I've given you some key levels to the downside. The worst case scenario that I see in the immediate future is $12,000. Like I said, I think for now we just kind of sweep the lows here around about $19,000, $18,000 or whatever, and then go back up again. But of course, this is going to cause cascading liquidations if we go down, because everybody that's got stops down here, their market sells, so it'll push the price low. All right, and usually it's lower than you expect, so just bear that in mind. All right, try not to catch a falling knife, and like I said, wait until it goes back inside the range if you want to go long, or look for that range rejection to go short. So I think that's all I've got here on Bitcoin. I've pretty much covered everything. So let's move on to Ethereum. If everybody's clear on that, I'll move on. Let me just see what everybody's saying here in the chat. Deborah Corton says, hi, hello, good morning. Dave, liquidity is the issue for BTC. Getting sick of Peter Schiff gloating about BTC and how good gold is going. Yeah, Peter Schiff will always be sort of a Bitcoin bear, and he's a gold bug, so each to their own, you know. But yeah, the liquidity is weak, not just on Bitcoin. Liquidity is weak across the board, right? There's a lack of liquidity in the S&P as well, and this is why we're seeing these massive moves. And in the stock market in general, because nobody wants to be putting their money in risky assets right now. That's basically the essence of it. So anyway, without going back onto traditional finance, let's move on to Ethereum here, and we start here with a 3-day chart. Okay, you can see that we're getting very close to this, basically to the second standard deviation here of the 2021 VWAP. Okay, so again, 2021 VWAP close. This is the value area low, or -1 standard deviation. This is the -2 standard deviation. Again, that has perfect confluence with the value area high of the 2020. Okay, and that's sitting around about the $800 mark. Right, I've already highlighted that as a level of interest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's basically tough, but this is a key level, right? You can also see this for various reasons. You can see that there's a period of high consolidation at this level here. If I put the log scale on, you can see that this is basically where we'd been consolidation before, so clearly there's going to be more volume there, right? And as such, there's a high volume cluster there, and that edge of that high volume cluster creates a new balance area, and those edges tend to act as support, right? And it has perfect confluence with the second standard deviations of these VWAPs, right? And you can see that these second standard deviations usually signal tops, right, on the upside. So why wouldn't it be the same thing at the bottom, right? So we're very close, right? Of course, anything can happen, and anything catastrophic can happen, but you know, we're getting close to those levels where it's interesting to buy, right? You can see that that's perfect confluence with around about $800 mark, like I said. Okay, so if I was to put the balance areas, and if you don't know what I'm talking about here, these are just kind of rectangles that highlight basically these high volume clusters, right? And the edges are the perimeter, if you like, of these high volume clusters. And you can see that the next area of balance, like I highlighted here with this green rectangle, has perfect confluence with this level here, which is the -2 standard deviation for the 2021 VWAP, and this low volume node here, right? So again, $1,000, $800 is basically the area of interest for buying Ethereum versus USD. But of course, if we get accepted back below $800, then it could get nasty, and we could come as low as $400. Okay, it seems crazy to be talking about those levels right now, but you can imagine that Ethereum is so closely correlated to Bitcoin. It just moves in tandem with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is moving in tandem with the S&P. So if the S&P decides to take a massive dump, it will drag Bitcoin and Ethereum and the whole of fucking crypto with it. So, you know, if I had said up here when it was at $3,600 that we're going to see $1,000 within a month or two, you guys would have all called me an idiot. So, you know, anything can happen here, right? But so these are levels that I'll be looking for, and of course this is a good area to buy, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do. Okay. Of course, if we actually bounce here, the next level of resistance is this one, around about $1,500, 14.15. And so for the time being, we're kind of inside of this cluster here, right? So this should be the range here, like something like this, right? So I think you know what I mean. So basically between $1,000 or $800 and $1,500. That's the range that we're at right now. Of course, if we break above that, then that means we entered a new balance area, and we'll be looking at the next levels, right? So the previous level of resistance will now turn to support, and we go on to the next level there, right? Tends to happen when we enter new balance areas, okay? So the same thing here. If we get acceptance back below here, then this level here that we are hoping to be support will now turn to resistance, and we go to the next area to look for buyers, which will be way down here, and that will turn into support, right? So that's basically how it should play out, regardless of which direction it will take. The reality of it is that right now we're inside of this balance, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500. Everything else is noise, okay? So if we look here at the lower time frames, so you can see here basically I've got the monthly view app, I've got the weekly view app here, and I've got the quarterly view app here at the top, right? So let's look at the 4-hour chart with the monthly view app. You can see that basically we've already got, let me just delete this crap here, right? We've already got a rejection here. When we try to find acceptance back inside the value area low of the monthly, right? So this is now resistance until proven otherwise, right about here, about $1,139. Okay, so at that level is resistance right now. So I'm going to put a little line there, a line there, and see if we can find any confluence with that. If we go over on the weekly chart, sorry, on the 30-minute chart with the weekly view app, you can see that basically we're also struggling to get acceptance back inside the value area low of this weekly view app, right? So if I just change this and take the daily off, and just delete some of these brush marks, right? This was basically the value area low of that monthly that I just showed you, right? So it had confluence more or less with the value area high of the weekly. Okay, this is when Bitcoin just the other day went to 23,000. We bounced a little bit, and now we're kind of like fallen out of the value area low of the weekly, which is basically this line here, and we're getting rejected repeatedly from there. Okay, so you can argue that there's a couple of ranges here. Okay, you can argue that this was a range that we've lost, just like that, or you can argue that this is actually the range and it's a bit wider, and this is merely the midpoint here, the equilibrium, if you like, which would make sense because we've got a low volume area here around about $1,150, right? So if we can bounce above $1,150 and get above this weekly view app, then it's very likely that we go all the way to $1,300 or $1,280. Okay, and so we'll see if this is now the new range, and basically if we're going to do exactly what we did a couple of months, last month, when we were just ranging for ages and ages and ages, which was about here, right, where basically we just kind of traded inside of this range here for a good part of a month or whatever, right? And of course there was the deviations of that. So let's just see if we're forming a bigger range here or a double distribution range, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But just bear in mind that whatever you're doing with Ethereum, you have to keep an eye on Bitcoin and obviously the S&P if you want to stay on the right side of the trades, okay? But it does look like we've got a little bit of a range here. So if we were to see the move that I was talking about on Bitcoin, it'll probably look something like this, go lower like this, and then what we want to see, in fact, it'll probably be a wick like this, and then what we want to see is when we come back to this range, will we get rejected there, which means that we would go further down, or will we get accepted back inside of the range, which means that we're almost certainly going to visit the top of the range there. All right, so that's basically what we're seeing in terms of market dynamics. Okay, but again, this is a range, and it's a range until proven otherwise. And like I said before, we could just have the volatility contained inside of this range and just keep on printing sideways. Okay, wouldn't be surprised to see that. But at least now you've got a pretty good idea of where we go, where we're likely to bounce if we go down, so which is around about $800. Okay, and where we're likely to find resistance if we go up. We covered resistance. I think we did we? So let's just, I'm going to recap that in terms of resistance here on Ethereum. I'm looking at round about this level here, right, which is the monthly VWAP at round about 1,424. Okay, so round about $1,500. Okay, which is, you know, again, like I said before, if I was to put those balance areas again, right, those are the balance areas that I showed you here on the big chart, right? Okay, so if I move this down to the 4-hour chart and we look at where that monthly VWAP is, look at that, it's right on the edge of this balance area that we're at. Okay, so $1,400, $1,500, you know, either this level here or this level here could cause extreme, well, will cause resistance without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, at least on the first tap. Okay, high probability this was a previous level of support. It confirmed it as support, then we've lost it, and we've not tested it as resistance. So if we do see a push to the upside, I expect this level to be strong resistance. If, of course, we break that resistance, because nothing is absolute in trading, right? And again, we reclaim that level at 1,500, then you know that hopefully this now turns to support, and the next level of resistance will be around about here, $2,000. Okay, so somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500, or 1,500 and $2,000. All right, so nice and easy to remember. That, like I said, everything else is, it's not noise, because you could be scalping this on the 1 minute time frame and make a shitload of money. It's not noise. If you're a scalper, then you probably make a shit ton of money trading this range here, right? But I'm just trying to give things from a higher time frame perspective, from a sort of a macro perspective, if you like. Okay. So that's all I've got here for Ethereum. Let's move on to Exocharts and see if we can find any levels of confluence here. In fact, let's start with the volume profile. And you can see here, actually, there's not really, I mean, there is, this naked point of control is sitting at round about $770. Okay, so again, if we potentially see a cascading liquidation to the downside, we could potentially bounce there. But I have seen many times, look how many times this level here got missed. Okay, naked point of control there. We had a big cascading liquidation here to the downside, and then we formed the range up there. Did it take out this naked point of control? No, it didn't. It took ages. Look at how long it took. We formed two ranges there. Okay, so we had a range here, and then we had another range here, right? And it still didn't take out this naked point of control until we actually came down. So, you know, don't be too fixated on this. It's more important to notice that it's actually really, really close to that $800 level that we were talking about. So potentially we could see a bounce there. There's potentially like, what do you call it? Residual liquidity there. Okay, so that could potentially happen, right? So let's move on to the Ethereum USD on the market profile. And also the same situation as Bitcoin. You can see that we've got pool lows. Okay, so we've got a pool low here sitting at around about $1,000, and we've got buying tails on these ones. Okay, so we've got excess on both of these profiles. All right, but there is a pool low, which is an anomaly there, that will most likely get corrected. Okay, they kind of act a little bit like magnets. It's just retesting that liquidity. Okay, so we could see the price kind of come down as low as 1,000, maybe even as low as $800. Okay, or completely miss that $800 mark and just kind of like do a little sweep of the lows and then continue back up again. All right, levels to the upside, you can see we've got some single prints around about here, around about $1,400, which is very close to that $1,500 mark, and we've also got a naked point of control at $1,460. So $1,500 will remain resistance until proven otherwise, as loads of signs pointing to it, and $1,000, $800 should be support for now, at least on the shorter time frame. Yeah, just bear in mind that if we do see a massive dump on the S&P and everything gets really, really nasty, then this could obviously get below $800, and then we'll have to evaluate from there. But, you know, in terms of sort of price action, this this is really extended now. Okay, we've extended. You can see here. Let's take these balance areas off. Right, large impulse consolidation, little correction here to the upside. We got stopped at that little bit of consolidation. Large impulse, not much in the way of consolidation at all, just the impulse. So where's the correction and the consolidation, right? We could see a little bit of a consolidation here. We could even see before that little correction, right, up to $1,500 or whatever. That's perhaps a little bit ambitious there, but up to about $1,500. See a little correction there, and then just move down, print new lows, or even just consolidate. Okay, we're getting close now. Impulse, consolidation, impulse, consolidation. Okay, consolidation precedes expansion, and expansion precedes consolidation, and that's usually how it works. All right, so yeah, just keep an eye on these levels here, down here. This is a low volume area. Low volume areas then tend to act as support, but the price will travel very quickly through there. Okay, because again, there's low volume there. So with that out of the way, that's Ethereum USD. I've showed you on Exocharts as well. So let's move on to Ethereum versus BTC, and we start again with a 3-day chart here. And I wanted to highlight this. I've already said this a number of times now. Large liquid candles, right? Largely, it's like hardly any volume going up there. Okay, so very thin move. We did bounce here on the 2021 VWAP close, but actually we've gotten below now, so that's potentially resistance now, here around about 55,000 sats. Okay, and it does look like it wants to extend itself a little bit lower. Okay, so again, this is low volume compared to this cluster here. Right, as you can see, there's a big discrepancy in volume there. So potentially we could see the price coming all the way down to here, which is around about 35,000 sats. Okay, 45,000 sats, however, which is this level here, is also the edge of this little volume cluster here. So we could see a little potential support there if we do indeed go down. That's definitely the next one anyway. So let's move on and put the support levels there. And you can see I've highlighted those already based on previous price action and high volume clusters, right? So you can see that it's tapering volume here, so the price could accelerate very, very quickly through this. Look at that, right? Tapering volume, low volume is just a recipe for disaster. But you can see that when we actually look a little bit closer and we put it on the weekly chart, for example, right, and you look at the entire thing, you can see that there's little pockets of liquidity there. Okay, so periods of consolidation here, periods of consolidation there, and even here just below price, right, there's a little bit of consolidation going on there. All right, even though you can see larger liquid move there, larger liquid move to the upside. All right, so these tend to get retraced, and the result of that is that we could perhaps see the price coming all the way down here and find support at this consolidation area down here, right? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The first levels of support is around about 47,000 sats, which is this level here. Okay, we could also see a little bit of support around about 44,000 sats here, but ultimately 36,000 sats is a level that it's a very interesting level in terms of support, because it is a high volume cluster. This is when the volume starts perking up there, and you can see here previous resistance, resistance, resistance as well. We fell below and then we smashed straight through, and we've not tested that as previous support. So again, just levels of interest, looking at the sort of the higher time frames on the weekly, right? So if I put this on the logarithmic scale, this looks a little bit scarier. I'm going to do that just for fun anyway. You can see here the nature of how illiquid that was. Okay, so we could potentially retrace this whole thing very, very quickly, come all the way back down here, maybe even as low as 30,000. All right, but edge of a high volume cluster tells me that this could potentially be support here. So just bear that in mind when we're looking at Ethereum, or at least on Ethereum BTC. Yeah, I recommend caution, but it's definitely heavy at the moment. It does look like it wants to go down. Those are the support levels in green. If I put the resistance levels here, we've got 53,500 as the next level of resistance, 55,100 as well, and then just basically 60,000 and 65,000 sats also as levels of resistance. Okay, so that is it for Ethereum BTC. If I was to remove these levels here and just look at the VWAPs and the value areas on a sort of lower time frames, you can see basically here ETH BTC is starting to form a little range here. It's just going sideways. Where did it find resistance? It found resistance at the monthly VWAP. We have acceptance inside of this value area low of the monthly VWAP, okay, and it does look like the buyers are stepping in at these lows here, around about 50,000 sats. That's not surprising, even though it's not a key level. It's a big round number, and big round numbers tend to have a psychological effect on people, and people want to buy a big round numbers. They just kind of, that's what the brain does. It just looks for big round numbers, and it just says like, yeah, I'll buy it there. So that's potentially why we're finding a little bit of support here at 50,000. So we could be just printing a little range here on those lower time frames. All right, so that's basically what we're seeing here. But either way, we're inside the monthly value area low. We've been rejected at the monthly VWAP, so we could just see a little range going like that, somewhere between 55 and 50,000 sats. All right, so that's on the 4-hour chart and the monthly VWAP. If I look at the weekly, you can see that we've reclaimed, basically we've deviated here from the weekly VWAP, right? But it's been acting as support, support, and support here many times. Okay, and we're still above it. All right, we're below the daily VWAP here, which is a green line, as you can see, but we're definitely finding support at the weekly. Okay, so this is interesting that the weekly VWAP has confluence with the value area low of the monthly, and we could potentially find a little bit of support here and actually go higher. So if we were to go higher, where would I be looking for? Where would I be looking for? Well, this VWAP close here seems to be resistance right now, right? Which is around about 55,000 sats, which is basically what I explained to you already on the 4-hour chart. All right, so all these levels have a little bit of confluence, and that's, you know, that's all you need to know. So at the moment, support 50,000 sats on the lower time frames, and resistance 55,000 sats, thereabouts. Okay, that's all I've got for Ethereum BTC. So let's move on to the FODL pairs, and I'm looking at the DeFi coins that are tradable on the FODL platform. So we start with FODL itself on the FODL versus USDT, which is FODL versus Tether. And basically we're still printing lower lows, and I'm looking at just big round numbers here. Okay, if you guys been here long enough, you know that basically we've got no previous price action on this coin, on this token, and therefore we're just looking at big round numbers again because of that psychological effect. Okay, so the thing to notice is that this is in red because I believe that this will be the interesting level of resistance here. The reason for that is because we've consolidated. There's a little bit of price action you can see here in visualized in the volume profile. This is a large liquid move, and these tend to get retraced very, very quickly. Okay, so if we were to find support somewhere, like for example at this level here, then I think that this here would be the real range, something like that. All right, with these orange lines as being almost insignificant. Okay, I say almost because you never know. You can look at this on the lower time frames as well. It depends on the scale that you're looking at and which time frame you're looking at. But on the sort of a 3-day or the daily chart, if you can see what I mean here on the daily chart, previous level of support, large move to the downside, large liquid move to the downside, and we haven't retraced it yet. So if we do retrace it, this is where we'll find resistance. So that's FODL versus USDT. Let's move on to FODL versus USDC on sushiswap. And again, we're losing ground, printing lower lows, and the significant levels of resistance are basically this one here in red, and this one here just because it's the edge of a high volume cluster, of a low volume area, right, of this low volume area here. So I think that this is potentially also a level of resistance. If we do, however, break above that, you can see here large level of support here. Okay, that's largely untested, so this will be definitely the next level of resistance if we do go up. Okay, levels of support, I'm still looking at just big round numbers, all right, because there's no previous price action, there's no frame of reference for us to draw charts from. FODL versus ETH. This is yet again on sushiswap. So FODL wrapped ETH. You can see that we've got a little range forming here. So with this level down here acting as support, well, it hasn't really been tested yet. We're kind of bouncing on the 320,000 way here, but this is basically the edge. In fact, why did I put that in there? Oh, I know, because it's the second standard deviation of that VWAP, right? So, but it does look like the price is holding up there. So I'm just going to use that. I'm going to put it there right now, okay? But you can see here on the if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that I'm looking at this second standard deviation of the previous VWAP close as the potential area of support, okay? So again, we can see the same dynamic that we saw on Bitcoin, where we're just kind of printing a bottom, going sideways, and then just go down, grab liquidity, and then come back up again, right? So just bear that in mind. But nevertheless, this looks like it is support right now. So I'm just going to delete and reduce this here. And I'm going to put a little range here, like this. Alright, so we've got support around about 320,000 way, and we've got resistance at around about 367 way. Okay, 367,000 way, that's basically where it is. So I think that we just kind of range until proven otherwise. Either way, it's just going sideways, okay? So FODL looking just as strong or just as weak as Ethereum. Just going sideways. Moving on to Binance USD, BNB versus USD. We're kind of tethering on the edge here, although this level here is being defended. $200 is being very well defended here. The reason I say that we're tethering on the edge here is because I showed you guys last week. I put this on the log chart to make it even more visible here. Let me just take the VWAPs off a second, right? And in fact, I'll take the volume profile off as well. And if you look at this on the logarithmic scale, and I know that this is a little bit deceiving, but I just want to sort of just to highlight how thin this move is, right? So if we lose this level here, we could potentially see a little bit of support here and potentially see a little bit of support there. That you will notice this on the daily time frame, for example. There's just little areas of consolidation, right? So consolidation here, consolidation there, right? So these are potential areas of support here, around about $130 and $72. However, it's very clear looking at this how thin and illiquid this move is to the upside. So if the worst was to happen and Bitcoin was to dump, then I think it would drag this down with it as well, and we wouldn't find support until we get to this kind of consolidation area here. All right, so we're looking at potentially a big dump here on Binance Coin. All right, but don't just go blindly shorting this, because we are at support until proven otherwise. Okay, and that support, it's only been tested a handful of times here. 1, 2, and 3, and it's been bought every time. And if you don't know what, it's Binance Coin, right? This is protected by CZ, funds are safe and all of that crap. So just be careful shorting this, but it's definitely an observation, and it's something to pay attention to if we are indeed to see much nastier prices on Bitcoin. It could potentially just drag this down, okay? Moving forward, okay? But again, like I said, we are at support until proven otherwise. So $200 is support, $285 is resistance, okay? So ultimately the range, if I put this on the daily chart like this, okay, this is potentially resistance here, as it was previous support, right? So the range is this here, okay? So somewhere between $200 and $287. This could perhaps be the best opportunity to buy at these lows and sell here, right? But like I said, if we lose this level here around about $200, and don't get obsessed with the number 200, okay? If we go to 199, we could just see a little deviation like this, 190, and then reclaim this and go up, and you'll get wrecked. But this could potentially present a good opportunity to short if we do indeed lose that level, okay? So you'll just have to observe this on the shorter time frames and manage your risk properly. But yeah, just an interesting observation that we're seeing here. We're at support until proven otherwise, and therefore I do expect price to bounce here from $200 to $287 as the next level of resistance. So that's Binance versus USD. On Binance versus Bitcoin, you can see that the market's just put the VWAPs back on and the volume profile. You can see that the market's kind of rallied here. And Binance looking a lot stronger than Bitcoin. We are very close to this level of resistance here and the top of the range, right? So as such, we've got a little, this is the distribution here, that nice big volume distribution, but it is divided in two, so you can argue that this is like a double distribution, and therefore we've got two little mini ranges inside it. Okay, get below this yearly VWAP, which is this blue line here, and I think the range will be the lowest one here, right? If we stay above it, then I think this is the range up here. If Bitcoin continues to go sideways and Binance looks strong here, then there's a possibility that we break above this level of resistance, and then we enter another distribution, which is this one here, right, where 10,600 sats would be support and 11,600 sats would be resistance. All right, but at the moment we're kind of still inside of this range here, and we're right at the top of the range, so potentially a good opportunity to short here Binance versus Bitcoin. But we'll see. We'll see if Binance can outperform Bitcoin, even if we do rally on Bitcoin, right? So if Bitcoin decides to rally here, and Binance coin is just going sideways, then of course we're going to see downward movement here, right? However, if BNB decides to rally as well, we'll have to see which one outperforms which. Okay, if Binance coin outperforms Bitcoin even on a rally, then we're very likely to see this. Okay, so just have to keep that in mind. Either way, we're close to resistance here, and support is this level here, around about 10,000 sats, let's say, right? 10,000 sats as support, and if we lose that one, then we've got potentially 9,600 and 9,200 as levels of support. On Binance versus ETH, on the daily chart here, you can see that again we're very close to resistance here, and I expect this range to be now in play, right? So this is support here at 1,700 way, and resistance is around about 2,000 way. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see. This was just highlighting that sort of retest, right? So again, look at this, kind of deviated above, came back, tested that edge, and then a price dumped that. Okay, it didn't go very far, you know, obviously with Ethereum being so weak at the moment, then you could see that it didn't go very far and kind of rallied from there. But I do expect this previous level of resistance now to turn to support. Okay, that's how it should be. So effectively, this is the range that we're in right now. Okay, at the top, this here as support and this here as resistance. Okay, break below that, then I think we're going to be looking at these levels down here. Break above that, and I think we are entering an all-time high. Not quite, but this is really nothing to go by. I mean, the eyes here was like what's that, 3,000 way? Okay, so I suppose I could put a little line there, right? It's previous all-time highs there, like that. All right. So if we break above that, then we could see the price travel very quickly through this level here, because there's nothing in terms of volume there. There's no previous, you know. There's a little bit of support here, so that's why it's going to act as resistance. But if we break above that, then we're almost in price discovery here, where, you know, it's uncharted territory. Okay, so we'll have to then look at big round numbers and perhaps any consolidation that we do here, like this or whatever. All right, you can see that there's a little balance area here. So if we get accepted inside of that balance, it's very likely that we kind of rotate here first, like this. Then we'll have to wait and see if we've got enough power to go back up, or if we do indeed do what we did there, which is just fall back inside the range. We'll just have to wait and see for that. But either way, without waffling too much, we're already at resistance, and this is the previous level of support. AAVE versus USD. This is a level of support here. This is a level of resistance, and so I expect the price to bounce between these two levels here. Okay. Previous support should turn to resistance. All right, so we're looking at $76, $75 as resistance, and we're looking at around about $53, $50 as support. Okay, so $25 range. AAVE versus BTC, still inside of the range. Not much changed since Wednesday, since a couple of days ago when I did the last TA update, and therefore we're kind of trading still inside of this range. So this is resistance until proven otherwise, this is support until proven otherwise, and it has confluence with the second standard deviation of the VWAP. So yeah, another reason for us to believe that this could be potentially a good level of support. Okay, so if we break below that, then I think we go to the next one here, which is around about 1,365 sats. If we break up, then the VWAP is basically resistance in this low volume node at right about 3,980 sats. Let's say 4,000 sats for argument's sake. Okay, so that's AAVE versus BTC. AAVE versus ETH, we are kind of getting rejected here, which is basically this level of resistance here. It's got confluence with the yearly VWAP. It also has a there we go. Let's have a look. I think we looked at this in the higher time frames like this. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is the edge basically of a we've formed a little bit. We had a deviation here, so we formed a little bit of a balance, but that level was there because it's the edge of this high volume cluster here, right? But at the moment, like I said, we are getting sort of rejected there at that yearly VWAP. So I expect this to be resistance, and I expect this level down here to be support. Okay, so resistance here, we've from below resistance, and we broke above it. In fact, we even retested that here, right? We retested that and then we rallied. Okay, so I expect this level here to be support until proven otherwise. So that's the range there, and it's basically somewhere between 550 way and 450 way for support. So 550 for resistance, 450 for support. Okay, so that's AAVE versus ETH. Compound versus USD. Just grab a quick drink. Yeah, we're still bouncing here on this level of support here. This could potentially be resistance, but the real level of resistance is this one that I highlighted up here. And again, just based on volume, because there's hardly anything here. This is largely liquid move. Okay, so this was a previous consolidation area here, acted as support. So I expect $55 to be the real level of resistance here. Okay, but of course this is $40 and $50, big psychological levels, big round numbers, right? So we have to take those into consideration. That's why they're marked out. But again, this is, like I said, large illiquid move. So if we do bounce here at $30, then we could potentially see a move all the way to $55,000 on a sort of on a higher time frame. Okay, so that's basically where we are right now. $30 as support, $25, $20, and I'm just looking at big round numbers because there is no previous price action. We're at all-time lows and on price discovery on compound. Compound versus BTC. Finding a little bit of support here, and so potentially we could see here 150 sats as support, and we could see 200 sats as resistance. Okay, you can see that we had a little bit of a consolidation there already. Okay, so in fact I'm going to put a little line there as potential resistance, and I'm going to take that range off like that. Okay, and this is just because, I mean, you can argue that there's a little divot there as well. But I'm just going to highlight this like this because I'm looking at these high volume clusters, and these keep changing all the time as price kind of develops. All right, but I am looking at 181 sats as the next level of resistance if we do break up, and 150 sats as potential support if we hold here. Okay, break below this level here, then I think the next level of support will be, we can look at these big round numbers here, 140, 130, 120, and so on. But looking really at 100 sats as the next level of support is if we measure the moves here that we've seen low, so impulse, consolidation, impulse, consolidation, impulse, consolidation, impulse. And you can see that, look how, you know, these impulses are getting smaller and smaller, right? So if I delete that, you can see this is a large impulse consolidation. This is a fairly large one as well, but it's getting smaller than the previous one. That's smaller than the previous one, and this one's yet smaller than the previous one. So price is compressing. Okay, so this means that we're, you know, potentially reaching a low here. It did exactly the same here. Large impulse, larger impulse, smaller impulse, right? We went sideways, we rallied a little bit, and then we still printed new lows. Okay, so it's not the be all and end all, but it's definitely a shift in momentum, right? So you just keep that in mind when we're looking at trading. Okay, so if we find support here, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a range forming here, and like I said, this would be resistance, this here would be support. All right, break below, this is the next level of support. Break above, this is the next level of resistance. Compound versus ETH. So compound lost a little bit of ground here compared to ETH. Okay, so this level here is already been confirmed here as resistance. So we've not reclaimed that. I've left that as yellow because this here is the next level of resistance. Okay, this one's been tested many times here as resistance. Okay, so this could potentially be the real level of resistance here. You can argue that this is a previous level of support, and therefore this should be way up here. Okay, and you wouldn't be wrong. Okay, in fact, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to move it there. Okay, and I'm going to change this slightly here. I'm going to put this as resistance and this here as support. So the range would be something like this. All right, break above it, we go to the next level here. Break below it, and we'll have to look at big round numbers again, such as 200 there, 200 way, and 150 way, things like that. Okay, so but at the moment it does look like we've kind of lost this range here, and therefore we're going to get stuck in this range down here. All right, break above it and we'll be in this range. So that's compound versus ETH. Let's move on to BAT versus USD, and again the same kind of scenario is happening. Okay, so we've bounced to this previous level of support. We're now kind of like ignoring this level here completely, so I'm just going to delete that. That's why it was in orange. But the real level of resistance, you can see the orange lines don't always get respected, but the red lines do. Okay, and that's purely because, again, previous level of support is now turns to resistance. Okay, so this here is the range that you should be trading in, and we're at the highs. We're very close to the highs here. Reclaim this level, and I think this one here will be the next range, something like that there. But break down below this level here, and I think we go to the next level here, which is around about 20 cents, and then we'll have to look at 15 and 10, and all those big sort of round numbers here. And if we look at the 3-day chart, maybe even, yeah, the 3-day chart is perfectly visible. So let's take the VWAP off a second. You can see that this was like a lot of consolidation there. There's a big range formed here. Right, so, and we've just entered that range, as you can imagine. If you can see that this is a whole balance area here, right? Look at what happens. Came back inside the range, we retested the edge of that range, confirmed that this is indeed resistance, and now we're moving down. So ultimately we could be well on our way to 20 cents, maybe 15 cents, okay? Especially if nothing changes in terms of price dynamics. But like I said, I'm just giving you sort of like the 24-hour daily range level to level, okay? And at the moment, it does look like we've confirmed that this is indeed resistance. And this down here should be support. So we're trading inside of this range here, okay? So 35 cents as potential resistance and 25 cents as potential support. That's on BAT USD. Moving on to BAT versus BTC, and it does look like BAT is outperforming Bitcoin. So let's just delete some of these brush marks and start again. All right, so this previous level of resistance is now kind of turning into support. So I'm going to put that as orange and this one here as green. And in fact, I'm going to move it slightly lower like this. Just put that on the edge of this cluster here, right? Large liquid move though, so you've got to be careful with this, because if we fail, the whole thing will get retraced. But look at that. This was a largely liquid move to the downside, and now we've retraced it. The BART pattern, as you guys like to call it. Okay, so previous level of support, we broke straight above that, and we've confirmed that this is indeed straight above resistance. If we confirm that this is again support now, then the next level of resistance will be this one here. So we could potentially see a little range forming here. Break above that, the next range would be here. Right? If we break back below, then we could find support here at the previous level of resistance. But of course, we could also fall back inside of this range here and then continue going sideways inside of there. All right, so plenty of ranges there that you guys can see here, and you can pause the video in a minute when I've put the timestamps on, and you can take out all of these levels and mark them onto your chart. So that's BAT versus BTC, and at the moment it does look like 1800 sats as resistance, and 1600 or 1550 as support. Okay, moving on to BAT Ethereum, BAT ETH. Okay, and again, we're smashing through levels of resistance, so let's just delete all of these brush marks. And this could be one of two things. If we look back, actually, we can confirm that. In terms of BAT versus USD, it doesn't look like we've done that much, right? We kind of lost a level, we printed a new low, and we've just got rejected at resistance. However, if you look at this on the 4-hour chart, look at that. We had a nice little pump to the next level of resistance, right? This in itself, this move in itself is enough to be outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing there. Okay, so let's change these levels and just put this as an orange one, which is closer to price. We don't know if it's going to hold a support, but this one should hold a support as it was previous level of resistance. Okay, but again, so you can see here it's support, we broke below it, confirmed it as resistance twice, and here we smashed straight through it. Okay, so we could potentially see there it's a low volume area here. So, and I said, I keep saying this to you guys, low volume areas, price travels very quickly through them, but they do tend to act as resistance more often than not. And you can see that here, right? You can see that there, there, and there. So these areas are usually resistance or support until proven otherwise, but when the price does travel through it, it travels very quickly, just like you saw here. All right, so anyway, we're back inside of this cluster here. So let's previous price action here. Let's put this on the 24-hour again, or the daily chart. Okay, tapering volume. There's a low volume area here. Okay, so this could potentially now be a level of support. And I mean, this is actually quite a decent sort of distribution like this. So this could just keep going, all right? But looking at previous price action, you can see that we found resistance there. Okay, and then this was support until we lost it, came back. So this here is the next level of resistance actually. You could argue that this level here is also resistance, but we just broke above that. Okay, previous level of support here was resistance, we just broke above that. So is this going to be a deviation? We're going to stay above this level here, or are we going to fail straight back down and recorrect that? So resistance. This could potentially be a little bit of resistance here, as there is a little divot in volume there, but this is the real one. Look at that, low volume there. Okay, so we could potentially see a little range forming in here like this. However, if we break down below and this doesn't hold here as support, or this, then the next range would be down here, all the way down to there again. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, so on the lower time frames, you've got these little levels here that could act as support, but overall, we've got this whole thing, right? In fact, you can do this as a one big volume distribution like this as the whole range. All right, with a few little divisible sort of like areas of interest, if you like. But this is the big range here. All right, so somewhere between 3,500 way and 2,500 way. All right, bear in mind that this is a larger liquid candle, and these tend to get retraced, so don't get caught out. All right, so just thought I'd let you know, and so that you know. I've got the levels highlighted there, but again, I want you to pay particular attention to the fact that we're inside a big high volume cluster there. So naturally we could travel to both sides, and the serious level of resistance is way up here. Okay, so that's BAT versus ETH. Link USD. Link looked very promising last week when we broke out like that, but it just didn't do anything with it, and we've lost this level of support as well. So this is the arrow here that we'll be looking at, trading this range here. Okay, so we either trade inside of there, or we reclaim this level of support here, and if we can reclaim that, then we'll be trading inside of this range here. All right, but for now it does look like it's getting rejected there, so we'll just have to wait and see. So $6.60 is proving to be resistance right now. $5 should be support. If we break below $5, then you're looking at right about $4, $3.64 as the next level of support. If we do break above $6.60, then the next level of resistance will be around about $8. Link versus BTC, we're very close to resistance here. In fact, we've already tested that. So this is resistance. This could potentially be support, and so therefore we could be trading inside of this range here, like that. All right. So break above, and you can be trading inside of this range here, which is this volume distribution here. If we break below, there is a low volume node there, right? But if we do break below, then this will be the next level of support, way down here. All right. So that's basically what I'm seeing here on Link versus BTC. Link versus ETH, we're again trading at resistance here. Okay, previous level of resistance here. We're trading there, but we could potentially go as high as that one, just like we did there, right? So that's why I've put the range here, and you can see that basically this is a whole low volume area here. So price again tends to travel very quickly through there. So we could see this continue to accelerate all the way up to there. So what I'll do is I'll change this line so it's less confusing to orange, okay? Because it's not clear if it will hold as resistance or not. Yes, it is the first level of resistance, but we could easily smash through that because it's so thin in volume. All right, so we could actually start forming a little range inside of here, right? With this level here as being a previous level of resistance that we saw here so many times, right? Turning to support, right? Edge of a high volume cluster. So if it turns to support, this will be resistance, this will be support, and therefore the price will travel inside of that, like that. Okay, we got potential to see a double distribution in here just because of the way of previous price here getting rejected at those levels for whatever reason. Okay, which I think is 6,000 sats. So 6,000 way, and so that potentially, because it's a big round number, it could be the reason why. I'm not entirely sure why, or if there is a technical level for that, or if it's something to do with the lending protocol, or I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I'll just look at the chart and I'll just, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, so that's Link versus ETH. This is potentially support. This is potentially resistance here. Okay, moving on to USD. Uniswap USD, we're kind of very much in the same place here. We've kind of broken below this level of support here. We've tested it as resistance, and therefore we're inside of this range. Right? So, like I said, this here should be support, this here should be resistance, and therefore we're trading inside of this range here. Alright, break above it, this is the next range here, with this little consolidation that we've had here, right? And we reclaim that level, or if we cannot do that and we get rejected here, we'll have to bounce at this support. Otherwise, if we don't bounce there, then we're looking at 197 or $2 as the next level of support. And again, I'm looking at big round numbers because Uniswap has not been this low. There's no frame of reference. You know, the frame of reference that I've got is this previous level here. Okay, we're pretty much at all-time lows here on Uni. All right, so that's basically where we are right now. Okay, so round about $2 as potentially the last level of support. Of course, it can go much lower. Doesn't mean that all-time lows will always bounce or will always be defended, but you know, it's a big round number and it could be defended. Uni BTC. Uni showing a little bit of strength versus Bitcoin here. Okay, we broke out this previous level of resistance, right? This should now be support, so I will change this to green. And I'll delete this little range here. Right, and potentially the new range formed will be inside of this these two levels here. You can see this previous level of support. It was confirmed here as resistance. So naturally that's going to be the next resistance. So we could be seeing a little range forming inside of those levels there. Okay, in fact it could even be a much bigger range and do this whole thing where this here is the real support and this here is resistance. Okay, but this intermediate line has been acting as resistance, and there was a little bit of an SR flip, as you can see here. Support and turned to resistance. We deviated above, fell back below, confirmed it as resistance again, and now we smashed through it. So naturally I would expect that to hold as support as well, at least on the lower time frames. So that's why it's highlighted. But that's what I'm seeing on Uni versus Bitcoin. Okay, of course if we break above all of that, the next level of resistance will be way up here. this level here. Uni ETH. Okay, we're close to resistance here. In fact, we're right at resistance here. So let's just wait and see what happens. This is a previous level of support. It's been tested many times as resistance, so it's perhaps a little bit weak now. So we could form a little range way up here like this, especially if Uni continues to look stronger than Ethereum. Okay, so time to pay attention. We either range inside of this one here, or we go all the way up to there. Okay, so let me just delete these arrows here. But nice, you know, again, this is a large liquid move, okay, so again, not much in the way of volume there. So, you know, will we form now a balance in between these two levels and form this range here and start going sideways in here? Or will we continue to break out? Either way, larger liquid moves do tend to get retraced, so please be careful. Alright, so with that, I think that's all of the FODL pairs, or the pairs tradable on FODL. So that is pretty much it for the weekend. Like I said, and I highlighted at the beginning of this stream, I advocate caution for today and for the next couple of days here for the weekend, because like I said, we could see some extreme volatility, and this could just go crazy and do like a little sort of whipsaw to the downside, cascading liquidations, whipsaw to the upside, and then just continue to go sideways. So it's time to pay attention and to be cautious as well and protecting your capital. But like I said, if this was a normal day, I would expect this level here, these lows here, to be swept, and then the price to regain the range, and then we move higher and retrace this whole large liquid move. That's what I would expect to do, but these are not normal days at the moment. So you know, the catalyst is the volatility is a function of liquidity, and today is a catalyst, but it doesn't mean that these levels don't get respected. Okay, we can deviate a little bit because obviously the cascading liquidations and everything else, but the levels do tend to get respected. So I'm definitely looking at these levels here for support. Okay, this level here, at least this weekly level. Okay, like I showed you already on Exocharts, there's naked points of control and all sorts going on there, and it would make perfect sense to have this as a level of support and then retrace and go and test that $28,000 level, or at least 27,000 or whatever. But we'll have to wait and see. Okay, for now it's very clearly defined that we're starting to form a range here. This is the range lows, this is the range highs, and so we should be ranging somewhere between $20,000 and $23,000 for the very near future. Okay, so with that out of the way, have a great weekend. I hope you guys stay on the right side of the trades for now, protect your capital at all times.